You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Testudo Times. I'm Brendan YSL.
Sam Jane.
And Michael Howes, and let's get into this week's interview. Our guest this week is Ravens safety and former Maryland Terps star, Beau Brade. Beau, thanks for coming on. Really excited.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
So I guess just tell me what this past year has been like, growing up a Ravens fan. You played flag football for the Columbia Ravens. What has this been like for you? It seems like a dream come true.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, just starting with draft day, it was crazy. I mean, that whole 3-day experience, I thought I was going to get drafted later in the second day. And then third day, I thought for sure I'd get drafted, and I went undrafted. And I had to kind of make a decision, right after the draft, where I wanted to go, who I wanted to sign with. So I decided to go with the Ravens, of course, hometown team. I was a Ravens fan since I was, when I was growing up, my whole time, me and my mom were the Ravens fans in the house. My dad was more on the Redskins side. So, but so I mean, I tried out for the team. Actually, the first day of practice, I messed up my ankle. So I was out for about 3 weeks. And I mean, they kept me around, which is kind of unheard of for an undrafted, rookie, for them to keep around if, you get injured like that soon. But they kept me around and let me give me the opportunity to prove myself and show what I, the skills and talent I had. So, I mean, I appreciate them for, of course, giving me the opportunity. But, from training camp to the preseason, had a great time. When the games came to the preseason, I was just on a, YOLO vibe. So I was just going in at one speed, just trying to, hit guys, cut guys, get interception. And I got an interception. They called it back, but that's where I caught that ball. But so that was cool. That was nice. And had jersey number 6. That was sweet. But then I had to change it for the regular season. They made me get out of that joint. But in the regular season, it was cool, man. The best thing about the Ravens, I think, really that surprised me was the atmosphere, the culture there. Going in there, I thought there was about to be a lot of egos and people just, a hierarchy for players that are playing, starting, or just we have a lot of best players in the league on the team. But I mean, I didn't see that from really anyone. I could talk to, I feel like Lamar, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan, the same amount as I talk to, just other rookies. And I mean, I feel like that's probably the reason the Ravens have been so great along the, 25, 30 years almost that they've, been an organization. So, I mean, it starts from the top down with, of course, Harbaugh, EDC, and really the owner creating that culture. And so the regular season was, I mean, it started off rough, I'm not going to lie, with those first 2 games. But we got stuff figured out, especially on the defense side of the ball, and turned into a great season. And then, went to the playoffs with a young team. Well, a lot of young players starting. And we had, feel we did a good job, but we, could have capitalized on more opportunities. Just the whole team could have, offense, defense, and special teams. And so I feel like that was probably the reason we came up short. But I mean, it was a great first season. I'm excited to see what else comes next. But yeah.
Take us through how you found out you made the 53-man roster, because, we watched that moment on Hard Knocks. Player gets called up to the coach's office, don't know if they're getting cut or they're making the roster. How did you find out?
Yeah, for me, it was pretty straightforward. So after the last preseason game, we have a practice after it. We still practice the next day, even though nobody knows if they're getting cut or not. So it's just awkward vibes throughout the day. But it was pretty straightforward. EDC came up to me halfway through the practice, and he was like, "Congratulations, you made the team." And at first, I didn't hear what he said, so I just nodded and smiled and was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "You want to And he was like, "After practice, you should call your parents." And I was like, "Oh snap!" He said I made the team, and so that was cool. And I of course appreciated him. And like I said, the Ravens gave me a great opportunity, and I feel like part of the reason was the work ethic I put in, but also a lot of the older guys in the same room I was in, that deep defensive back room, wanted to see younger guys succeed. And so they did, everything they could to help us if we needed it. So, yeah.
Bo, you obviously, coming from Maryland, and then when you were in the undrafted phrase, like how many teams were reaching out to you once the Ravens kind of hit you up? Was it almost like, yeah, this just makes too much sense? Or were you looking at like who's in the safety room? Like, do I have a chance onto the roster? Can you kind of take us through the process of what it was like after the draft was over? And I assume you're kind of getting flooded with calls at that point.
Yeah, so after the draft, I had my agent dealt with most of those calls, but like I could have really went anywhere since I was like expected to get drafted. So like for under the free agent, I could have kind of went any place. The top teams were Maryland. I mean, not Maryland, but the Ravens and the Titans. And I mean, it's kind of like an easy pick for me. I mean, the Titans are pretty good, but I mean, easy
Yeah,
pick.
stay at home. Yeah, exactly. What's your best interaction with Kyle Hamilton kind of coming into the room? You guys both are almost like rover safeties. He's obviously done it in the NFL at a high level now for a couple of years, but off the field seems like a pretty funny guy too, just going off his social media and following along. What was the best or first impression you got of Hamilton, and do you have any good stories with him?
Not as I mean, he is funny as hell. Like I will say that for sure. But I just like how he carries himself is great. He's a professional, of course, and he's obviously a great player. Story wise, I don't have any like he jokes around all the time in meetings and like outside of football, but I'll say like the story I'll say like was in football. Like I saw him in practice one day. He was like blitzing and then he did a spin move on like the running back or something, or like a tight end to like get a sack basically. And I think that, like the next day at practice or like that following week, I did the same thing, but like it was unnecessary. So when we were watching film, and like the whole defensive room was just like laughing at me because I did a spin move for no reason. Like I could just kept going straight and got a sack. But so yeah, that was probably it. But they were laughing at me. But I mean, story wise, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a specific story that like shows humor. But yeah, cool guy.
What's been your advice to guys? Obviously, you go undrafted, but a lot of guys that just got drafted from Maryland got drafted near the back of the draft. What's been your advice to those guys trying to make a 53-man roster?
Yeah, before the draft came up, my year I was coming out, it was like being drafted wasn't the goal, it was to like make a roster and be a great player in NFL. So I just kind of give them that advice too, like man, like you haven't, and like well, of course, like those are my brothers that are from Maryland that just got drafted, but and we talk to each other like brothers. So I'm like, bro, come on, like we haven't, you and I, neither of us have like really done anything yet. Like we still have a lot to prove. So that's kind of my advice to keep on working like you haven't been given anything because you haven't yet. So work ethic is definitely a huge thing. And I think that's I think a lot of them got, I feel like the work ethic was built on a lot at Maryland with necessarily like with our leaders in the room, like Dante Trader, myself, and then Talia and you. I mean, Jordan Phillips, you have countless guys. All the guys that got drafted were leaders in the room. So that work ethic was like shown at Maryland, and that's why they got drafted. But you got to keep it up. You got to go even harder at this level. So that's kind of the advice I give them to like just keep your head down and just like keep grinding. And I mean, I feel like they all will. So I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what they do. But yeah.
Speaking of your time in Maryland, I mean, now everyone talks about the wide receivers as kind of being what's been the main position that's been selected. But I was talking with a friend the other day, and now defensive backs are getting up there too. I mean, you had Jacorian, Tarheeb, Dante, Deontay, a lot of guys. Why do you think there's been such a recent surge in the defensive back? And do you think that you can say, the DB room is now pumping out more NFL guys than the receivers, or do they still hold that crown?
No, I'm gonna say that for sure. But I'm also obviously biased. But I know my whole time at Maryland, like the team and everybody was also always talking about like the receiver room and the receiver room, this and that, and like that kind of pissed the DBs off. And like I feel like we went out, we showed something like we had to prove something like at practice and in games. But I mean, I think we had a lot of great players on defense, and I think that's defensive unit. Like my junior and senior year was special. We'll include my sophomore year. My sophomore year I didn't play a lot, but we had Nick Cross back there, and then of course my junior year we had, our starting corners were Corian Bennett, Deontay Banks, and then we had Tarheeb still at nickel. and then our two safeties were me and Dante. So like I feel like, and we knew at the time like we're like that. Like we just know we had to like prove it though, because like nobody else knew that, but we knew that. So like we were always like for game days, we were like always excited to show ourselves, and a lot of it was built also because of, like you said, the receivers at Maryland. Like great receivers are going to turn the DBs into great DBs, as long as they have that the dog in them, the heart in them. Because I mean, if you're just like hiding behind people in line, you're not gonna become good. But yeah, so like the whole season, my junior season, we were like lit to play games, no matter who we're playing. Like we're about to play against Ohio State, and we're like the night before the game, like we're all in one room talking to each other, all hype and stuff. And so, man, like we just had like good times, but also we had the same mindset, and then, like we were a family out there. So I mean, I think that DB room was one of the best for sure. But yeah, no, the DBs. I mean, I don't know any DBs at Maryland right now besides Levain Scruggs, because he was there at the same time I was, and probably like two others. But I mean, they have like big shoes to fill. So I hope that do that, fill them. But yeah.
Out of that plethora of Terps that were just picked up the past draft, also Ruben and Dante picked up as well. That one-speed trio now in the league all together. What is that like to see you guys' group all together in the league now? And would you guys think about making a return to the podcast? Maybe a little virtual action now?
Yeah, I know, right? No, it's great because I mean, I knew Ruben because we both came in the same time at Maryland. We both early enrolled at the same winter semester, and then of course, like I knew me and Dante like hit it off since he came on to campus, and he's like, we've all been a tight knit group with like some other players too. So I mean, that's great. And then of course, one speed and everything. So I mean, I'm happy for them. I hit both of them up, of course, right after they got drafted, and it was, I love to see them so excited and like great things happening for them. And I mean, I know they're gonna do a great job. They have a certain skill, each of them, that a lot of other players don't have. Like especially like Ruben, you don't see a lot of linebackers running a 4.39. Like that's not happening. And then Dante, just like how smart he is and knowledgeable about the game and stuff, and he's a great leader. So I mean, they'll do great. I know I talked to them the other day about like some one speed stuff, and like just like telling them I appreciate it. It was like before the draft, I think. I was like, I appreciate y'all for like that one speed podcast and everything. And then they both were like, yeah, we'll get back going like after our first year or something. And so I don't know if it'll happen, but shoot, if it does, then that'll be sweet. But yeah.
Yeah, we now have had the entire one speed trio on this podcast too. So you were the final domino. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you, kind of throwing it back to your college days. I think that the best game I've seen a Maryland defensive player in my time play was your game against Michigan in your last season. And I think after the game, you said something along the lines of like, I wanted to inflict pain. I thought that was a kind of represented that game. Can you take us through, how you're feeling in that type of game? Like what is is it just like, not to say the flow state, but are you just feeling like everything's clicking? And what was your favorite play from that contest, if you happen to remember one?
Yeah, so in games like that, usually like I'll be like really hyped before the game, and like I mean that off season before that game, I was just watching like since January Michigan film and Ohio State film, because we lost in two close games to them the year before, and I didn't have such a good game against Michigan my junior year. So I was like, I need my get back. And then Ohio State, that my senior year, we could have pulled that off, but we choked, and that was rough. Another story. But we got to the Michigan game, and I was like, I was ready for the opportunity, but like it wasn't like the energy didn't really come to me until like both teams were on the field and we're about to do the coin flip, and then I look at what's 7, the running back on Donovan Edwards on their sideline. I'm like, oh, I'm about to kill him, and then it hit me. I was like, oh yeah, we're good. And I'll say my favorite play from that game was Probably the tackle on JJ McCarthy. When I think I was blitzing. That was a tackle on JJ McCarthy when he was doing like a read option. But I wish I could have. There was like a play early in the game where he threw like a out route, really shallow out route to the tight end, and I got a pass deflection on it, and I was so close to picking the ball off. But that was probably the hardest throw I've ever like felt. Pause. But cause I got both my hands right there and went right through like my gloves, and I heard the squeak of my gloves when the ball went through. I'm like, what? But yeah, so I mean, that was a great game. Almost pulled it out, but yeah.
You had a hit on Stroud too. I think it was your junior year. It would have been when he took a read option. So you just had a penchant for hitting first round Big Ten quarterbacks.
Yeah, that was sweet. Yeah, we almost had that one, and then that game was super lit when Jacorian Bennett got that
you got
field goal block
goal block. Yeah,
was it field goal or was it PAT?
It was like an extra point. I think they ran it back. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. From a player's perspective, you were there for a lot of really close games against the top teams in the Big Ten. And now that you're graduated and kind of a year removed from it, what do you think is the biggest reason, like legitimately, like when you're thinking about it, why Locksley hasn't been able to take kind of that next step and take down one of the bigger dogs in the Big Ten? Like, can you pinpoint it from a player? Is it a variety of things? Like, what do you think is kind of the reason they haven't been able to?
Yeah, it's a variety of things. From first of all, like having the team that's capable of beating Ohio State and Michigan team. Like, I mean, my junior year and my senior year, we had teams that could do it, but like my freshman and sophomore year, we definitely we couldn't have done it. So I mean, he's probably had two. I mean, yeah, no, he's actually only had those two teams. I feel like that were capable of beating the Michigan and Ohio State. And then when it comes to those games, also you can't make mistakes. Like players can't make mistakes, shoot themselves in the foot. Coaches can't make mistakes with like certain calls and stuff. And I feel like just in the games we made maybe one or two too many mistakes. Like, I mean, Ty's gonna hate me for saying this, but like my junior year Michigan game, the opening kick return, and he was kicking himself in the like he hates like himself for that play. But like also on top of that, there was a lot of other plays that like defensive bust, like Blake
you gave up the touchdown for him at the end of the half.
There was, we had like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s where he just like bounces out because he can't see his ass, you know. So like he's like they have like 6'5" linemen, and he's back there like 5'7". And I mean I love Blake because he was he went to St. Francis, but it's like that's like impossible, like that sucked. So I mean there was a good amount of mistakes we made that if we didn't make the mistakes we could have won. Then the Ohio State game that year, I mean, they had a great team. We later in the fourth quarter we jump off sides on like 3rd down. They get like the first down. They take 2 more minutes of the clock, and then we're down by 6 at the end. We have a kick return, and instead of like kneeing the ball or like letting it go out the back of the end zone, we try to take it out, and we get to like the 15 or 10 yard line, and then they get a strip sack or a sack. Well, the quarterback gets hit while throwing the ball, and then the guy intercepted it. So, I mean, it was like we lost by 13 after that, but it was like the last drive of the game. We could have won. Then my senior year, when we were at Ohio State, we had a great first half. Could have ended the first half with a touchdown or at least 3 points, but we hit a check down to the running back, and the time goes to 0, and then 3rd quarter they came out hotter than we did. Dante Turner gets injured, and then by the beginning of the 4th quarter, middle of the 4th quarter, they get up by 2 scores, and now the guys' morale is starting to go down. You don't have a lot of faith that you can pull the game out. And then Michigan game that year, I mean, it started rough, man. Like was a punt out the back of the end zone. Like we had a safety, fumble for a touchdown, and I think in that game our defense gave up less points than our offense scored. Like if we had no turnovers or takeaways, we could have won that game. But then we just had so many mistakes on. I mean, of course, those mistakes were on the offense side of the board, but defense, I mean, we let up some big runs, passes, and like there was one huge pass that could have connected on. Michigan could have, but luckily the guy, I mean, like dropped it or like mistimed the catch or something. I don't know how he dropped that, but I mean, like all those games like were really close, but also we made a lot of mistakes, and that's not even including the penalties, you know. So it's like you can't kick yourself in the foot, can't shoot yourself in the foot, and then also you gotta have the players to be able to make the plays, and that just didn't happen for those, you know, those 2 years. He just couldn't get it done. But yeah.
You just did a pretty good job of kind of laying out the reasons why those games didn't go Maryland's way. You know, from a fan perspective, there is a lot of criticism towards Coach Locksley for not winning those marquee matchups. You know, from your experience playing under him, do you think that criticism is warranted from the fan base?
Nah, I mean, he's done a great job. I mean, he had, I mean, 3 back-to-back bowl game, you know, bowl eligible seasons. I mean, he's been at Maryland for like 6, 7 years now. 6, 7.
This will be his 7th year.
But like Franklin hasn't done much either. He's been at, I feel like, Penn State for longer, and he hasn't like, I feel like he's more like, I mean, he has more talent. Like he has more opportunity to get talent. Franklin does, being at, you know, Penn State.
I mean, Franklin has made a college
name
though too.
I mean, yeah,
like,
this past year, you know, like he got he's they had a kind of a cakewalk to the through the playoffs though. I mean, SMU and then whoever, but I mean, he did make it now, so he can you know has something on his chest, something on his
Penn
jacket.
State, like Penn State was not mentioned in those close games because like they.
Oh my God, no, and they will never be. Like we would come so close to being Michigan and Ohio State, and then Penn State, it'll be like 50-25, and it'll be like. No, but yeah, there's enough blame to go around, you know, but yeah.
Do you think it's the talent gap between Maryland and those schools that allows, I guess, that makes Maryland commit those mistakes that you talked about? You guys just kind of have a smaller margin of error.
Some years, I mean, like when Locks first got there, I don't think he had a lot of help. Now he has some good players, but he didn't have a whole, bunch of help. And then, I mean, some years you have a lot of good players. Some years you don't. You just try to make the best of the situation you have. Make lemonade out of some lemons. But I mean, those 2 years, like my junior, senior year, I felt like we had the talent to do so. But that's when players have to like either be more disciplined, listen to coaches, or we got to just be more of a tight knit unit than just everyone try to like do their own thing or make their own plays. So, and I'm not saying that was like that's the case in that situation, but most like if I don't think Maryland's always been known to having like good athletes on their team or like good specific players. Like I mean, you have Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Anthony McFarland, and then Darnell Savage. Like you have a lot of good athletes, and that's not like there's probably better athletes on the team than just those guys. So you have like a lot of good athletes and players, but you just gotta like connect it. Like I had a teammate my freshman year. He transferred from Michigan, and he was saying how like the year before, like Michigan, like they're like in their team meeting, they're like, don't sleep on Maryland. Like they have a lot of good players and good stuff, but you just like in their meeting, they say you just know they're going to beat themselves. So like that's the biggest thing, and like Locks knows that's like the word on the street or whatever. Like the biggest thing we gotta do is not beat ourselves, and he always says so. And I think that's completely true. So yeah.
As an alum now, you can kind of now, I feel like, make comments about changes you want to see to the program. In terms of fan attendance and also just like overall changes, how do you think Maryland can kind of, other than winning, right? Because winning kind of cures all. Do you think it takes just one big win? Do you think there's things that the program can do to kind of generate some more juice, I guess, behind the football program? Because you see, like, the basketball team this year, when Maryland teams are good, like, the fans definitely show out, but it hasn't been that case for football. Even when you guys were really good, you had a couple of really packed games, but it never really seemed to be consistent. How do you think that they can kind of get more juice going to the program?
Well, I'll start off by saying, like, the fan attendance my first 2 years kind of made me mad, but then like my second 2 years, I was like, because I know other guys are mad, like staff members, teammates, at athletics in general, and I was like, you're not giving them much to watch, like you can't even get mad at them when we're not even winning games we should be winning, like we're lose to a Northwestern or something, and you still want people to come out. I mean, I wouldn't come out if I wasn't on the team, if you lose to Northwestern, but to like make it better besides winning games, I would say, like, I mean, you have to put on a show. I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is like entertainment, and they want to be people want to be entertained, fans want to be entertained. So you got to do something to like entertain them. You got to sell the team, you got to market the team. So like, I mean, but you got to look at I think the biggest fandoms in college football, like let's say like LSU, a lot of SEC teams, LSU, Tennessee. I mean, Bama's like a great historical program, so you can't really like compare yourself to that because they have so many national championships. But like it was like a Virginia Tech, Michigan, there's some places, West Virginia, like where the fans are just like really good. And I mean, sometimes, like Nebraska or West Virginia, there's not a lot of other things to do than, go to the football game. But there are things like, I'm thinking like at Virginia Tech or LSU or like Tennessee, whenever, or like Texas A&M, like whenever like the players like run out the tunnel or something, like you have like a known song, no to go to song where like Enter Sandman or the LSU Suck the Tigers, like people, like that's what people want. Like people want to get rowdy when they go to the game, but also like watch a show, and like have fun. So I mean, you guys got to make it a fun atmosphere. You got to like know what the community wants and like what kind of target market you're marketing to. So like you can't do the same thing that SEC programs do because this isn't the South. Like this isn't Deep South where like everybody just drinks beers and like have like get rowdy and all the time. Like you got to like do some of that, but also do some of this. You got to target. You have a target market, and I feel like you got to like know your market well. And maybe that's hiring somebody in a position to strictly look into that, because I mean, I feel like that would be worth it just because I mean football's makes the most money out of all the sports, the most profit, like revenue, but also you can increase that by a lot by just putting someone in a position to strictly just look at that stuff. So I mean, other than winning games, I'd say that. I mean, Locks brings in a lot of big time players and big time recruits. So of course people want to see those guys show out and play and see what they can bring to the table. But I mean, besides the recruiting and winning games, that's what I would say. Like just, I mean, market, sell it. People want to be entertained, so entertain them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess specifically for your career moving into year two, what's one thing, very specifically, one specific skill you've been working on in the offseason to get ready to make the jump?
Yeah, I've been working on how I play in the post, the middle of the field, trying to become, like Ed Reed back there. So I've been kind of like talking to Coach Harbaugh and Pagano about, how to improve back there. And I mean, they've done a great job. They switched the defense around a little bit, just making little changes so that we can play with better eyes and make plays on the ball. So I'm excited to, see what not just I can do, but what the team does, this season. But yeah.
What have they told you about like what your role is? I know you're under contract, right, for this season. What do they want you to do?
Well, I mean, right, like Zach Orr and Pagano, and I mean, they just want me to like be really the best player I can be. They, I don't really talk to them about like my role on the team. I just try to be the best I can be, and that's what they want. And then when I show that I can be on the field and be, useful to them, be useful to the team to, get a win, then, I'll have a certain role, and I mean, that's all I'm doing right now, trying to earn that role and earn that spot. So, yeah.
You changed to number 24, but Malachi Stark's recent draft pick does wear 24. Has he hit you up? Like, what's the deal there? What are you asking for? If he comes to the table with an offer, what does it got to be, for you to give it up?
No, I'm playing. No, he's got 24 now. I was trying to get just like, I mean, I didn't like need more cash, but I have like a lot of friends and family who like have gotten the number 24 jerseys, and I feel bad because like they've gotten the 25 jersey at Maryland and the 2 jersey at Maryland, and then maybe the 6 jersey for the Ravens and now 24. So I felt bad. So all I asked was like that the Ravens cook me up with some like jerseys for my new number. So we'll see what they do with that. So Yeah.
Is your new number single digits again, or is it back in
No, I
the?
wish. It's 28. I was
Okay.
they give me between like 21, 28, and some 30 numbers. And I was going like 21, and then they were like, Kane already got that one. So I was like, I got 28 then. But yeah, I'm
That's
let's see what I do.
that's
I've
fun.
never worn 28. My best friend wore 28 in high school and college, so I'll just do it for him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know. 20 is retired, right? So you couldn't have
Yeah.
the Ed
Yeah.
Reed. So close enough. But thank you a lot, Bo. We really appreciate you hopping on. Good luck with this upcoming season. Stay healthy, and we'll be looking forward to watching you in Baltimore.
Of course, man. I appreciate you guys for having me.
And that was a really good interview, but there's also a lot of sports going on in College Park right now. Most importantly, I think a lot of fans were tuning into was the spring game on Saturday. Terps fans got their first look of Malik Washington in SAQ Stadium. And while there's not a lot to take from a spring game where, as Coach Locksley said, this roster is going to change dramatically over the next 2 months, it was nice to see Malik play in SAQ. So I was there. I got to see a little bit of it. And yeah, Christian Martin, he got the game's MVP. It was very exciting and surprising to see him perform very well in that game, but it was also cool to see Malik play. And I guess one of the things that I noticed was it seemed like Malik was kind of running at 70% speed almost when he would rush the ball. And I heard that from a couple different people um, after the game that he wasn't really going full speed. And when you did see him scramble out the pocket, when you did see him take off for that long rushing attempt at one point during the game, he did kind of move. So in my eyes, in a real game scenario, it would be very exciting to see him rushing, using his legs a little bit more. A couple of different guys told me he throws the best balls in the quarterback room. So yeah, very exciting to see Malik. Also got to saw a little bit of Justin Martin. I know Sam, you were chopping up some of the video earlier today. Posted a little bit on Twitter if anybody wants to look that up. But Sam, what did you see from Malik? What did you see from Justin?
Yeah, I was unable to attend, so because I'm a sicko, I went back and watched the entire game. And I think that the biggest takeaway I have is that this team's depth is pretty. I know Locksley said it's not going to be an issue, but I'm concerned in terms of kind of what you're looking at. A lot of the second line, third stringers didn't look necessarily incredibly impressive, but I thought that the quarterback room, it's hard to deem really anything incredibly significant because they're not live. And so obviously the pass rush isn't as much of a factor, but I had a few takeaways about Malik's performance. Just watching it, on screen, is that I agree with Mike. I think his arm talent stood out really, really from the jump. I think he clearly throws the prettiest ball. Martin has a big arm too, but Washington just it comes out of his hand really well. He's able to change arm slots. I noticed that a lot of kind of sidearm throws, a lot of changing the level, which it'll be interesting to see if he deals with batted balls this season because of kind of the lower motion he has. But I thought that was something that stood out. I think that he'll play really well out of structure. Mike said, he'd like to see him run more, but I noticed that when Washington was looking to scramble, some of that could be the spring game, but he was looking to throw while scrambling. He wasn't running to run. He was running to extend the play and still keeping his eyes downfield. And I think with a lot of young quarterbacks, you get outside the pocket and your head immediately goes down. It's okay, time to tuck and run, right? And I think that he did a good job of keeping his eyes up, even if he ended up running, making sure that there's no receiver breaking free. And that's been a huge part of Maryland's offense under Locksley, and I think it'll continue with Malik. And then lastly, I think that one thing I would be worried about if I was a Maryland fan were this was a ton of one read and throws. Like Malik would catch it, eye shift, ball out. And that's good in the sense that you don't put too much on your young quarterback's plate, but he's going to have to make a couple of, reads and move off his first read in the season. The touchdown pass that he threw to, I believe, Dorian Fleming, that ball is picked off with a high level Big Ten safety. He locked in on him the entire time, threw it to his back shoulder so the defender couldn't get it. But I believe it was Lavian Scruggs was right there to tackle and potentially blow up the receiver, and if not, pick it off. So I think you're going to have to see improved eye manipulation and getting off those first reads. But overall, I think it was a very strong performance from Washington, who I thought looked the best out of the three quarterbacks. And Justin Martin, frankly, I thought he would potentially be the most ready. He looked like he had a ways to go. His arm talent stood out, but it wasn't a lot of it wasn't a lot of downfield throws. It was a lot of forcing into tight windows. So right now, I mean, obviously it's early, but I would say Washington looked the strongest there in the spring game. Long-winded rant, but Malik's pretty much the excitement of this program right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. If I had to give my guess at how the quarterback competition is going right now, I would say Malik is likely the front runner. I know Locksley mentioned post game, Justin's still getting acclimated to the system after transferring from UCLA, but so is Malik. He just got to campus this semester as a true freshman, not even taking, classes like a regular freshman. He came in the spring and he completed, he completed 12 of 18 attempts. Justin Martin completed only 6 of 14. So they're both acclimating to the system. It's not just Justin Martin. And Malik, the younger guy, he looked a lot more better.
Yeah, I mean, spring games overall, it's just really hard to know exactly what they're going to tell you. MJ Morris won last year's. We talked about this last week, but he won the MVP of the spring game last year, and wasn't super impactful in the season. So it's hard to know. I will say, from not looking at quarterbacks, I thought Ryan Manning, a guy who was behind a bunch of wide receivers last year, looked really strong. Obviously, had some balls that he just had to make the catch for. But overall, that was my highlight, at least away from the quarterbacks, as he probably looked the best of any other player. I will say, my initial reaction from this game was I wasn't sure if the offense looked really good or if the defense didn't look as strong. And I think my reaction was that the defense probably isn't going to be that good. Obviously, it's a spring game, so they're mixing a bunch of different people in. But I think if you look at the final score, my reaction wasn't, oh my God, the offense looked great. It was the defense did.
Yeah, I think that some of that is pass rush, like not being able to really rush a passer, and they're not going to get exotic with their looks. And I think that's what the new defensive coordinator's coming in. Ted, I always am bad at pronouncing the last name, but he's going to get kind of exotic with his blitz packages. That's really the way they're going to generate pressure this year. But I agree, Brendan. I mean, the lack of depth across the defensive side of the ball and the lack of really, I mean, who is the best player on this defense entering the season?
Probably Keyshawn Flowers.
Jalen Husky.
I don't know. They all got drafted, so
you're not really doing a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what they can kind of cook up. They've been making some transfer portal ads, and the roster's turning over for sure. Real quick, guys who got drafted. It was a good draft day for Maryland. Ty Felton, Jordan Phillips, Tommy Nasoto.
King Basote. You are so bad at saying the last name.
That's bad. Caden Prather were all drafted, and Dante Trader as well. So really strong draft day. 2 to the Miami Dolphins. They're building up a Terp Central over there. And I think that it's really interesting to see this program pump out NFL players, all day 3 guys, but
Ty Felton was the last pick.
Last pick of the day too, but an encouraging sign. And I think that it really just showed how disappointing last year was with the NFL talent that they had. I mean, guys even going, Glenn Miller was signed undrafted. So was Josh Kaltenberger. So I think that it's kind of a bittersweet for Maryland fans that they had talent last year. It just never, transpired in any sort of winning on the field.
Absolutely. I mean, I tweeted this out, but I was pretty shocked. I would be willing to bet a large sum of money that there has never been a team in college football history that had 6 players drafted and won just a singular conference game. I could be wrong. I'm not fact checking this, but I'd be willing to think that has probably never happened. This team had talent last year, specifically, I would say defensively, but they were just not able.
Ruben Hippolyte was a 4th round pick. I didn't even mention.
Yeah, exactly. And rightfully so. And they just were never able to put it together. I don't really know what that means. I think you obviously have to point at coaching in that situation, because if you have talent and you're not winning games, it's hard to know who else to blame there. But it does definitely show that Maryland can develop pro-ready talent, and that's at least how they're going to spin it.
Definitely. Let's move off football and into sports that are playing. Women's lacrosse in the Big Ten tournament. They fell. After advancing to the finals, they blew a brutal game against Northwestern, losing 8-7. It's the Terps' 2nd straight loss to the Wildcats in the Big Ten tournament finals. it's a tough loss, especially considering the offense had played so well in the quarters and semis. They scored a combined 30 goals in those 2 rounds, but then only dropped 7 in the championship. So really disheartening loss. Brendan, what is the seeding looking like now moving forward for the NCAA tournament for Kathy Reese's team?
Yeah, I would expect them to, like they did last year, host a regional or a first round game or quarterfinal game. It's hard to know exactly where they're going to be. Last year, they were looking like they were going to be outside of the top 8, and then they made it in. I would expect them to be somewhere about right again 6, 7, 8 range. I mean, here's the thing: they were ranked according to Inside Lacrosse rankings 7th going into the tournament, and they lost to the 3rd best team in the country in a game that they probably should have won. Maryland looked so strong for the first, I gotta say, 50 minutes of that 60-minute game. They were up 6-2, and then Northwestern went on 5 unanswered to go up 6-7. Corey Edmondson played incredible, had 4 goals. Kayla Gilmore scored a goal. Her mother had passed away in the past week, so that was an incredible story, and very nice to see her get one after the week she had. The biggest reaction to that game is that JJ Soriano, who had not looked great before the Big Ten tournament, she had been playing better in the end of near the end of the season, but she had 18 saves on 26 shots. Absolutely an unbelievable performance, and she totally kept them in that game. I mean, the first matchup of the season, Northwestern scored 16 goals, and then she comes back the next time they play and have 18 saves. If she plays like that, this Maryland team could beat any team in the country. The offense just wasn't able to get over the hump. Northwestern hasn't looked as great. They almost lost to Johns Hopkins. They played them 15-16 in the semifinals. It seemed like for most of the afternoon yesterday was a game Maryland was going to take, but there's a reason Northwestern is as good as they are, and they've had Maryland's number for the past couple of years, and they did just enough. Corey Edmondson had a chance to win the game at the end. Northwestern defender made a great deflection. Edmondson shot one over the net, but it'll be interesting to watch this team. They could make a deep run. They could play in the Final Four for sure.
You mentioned how that was a disappointing loss for Maryland, but going back to that offensive inefficiency, that was really a game Northwestern should have won the entire time and not have come down to getting their first lead in the final 16 seconds. Like, you got outshot 41-19. Like you said, JJ Soriano really kept them in that game, but those offensive deficiencies really came to fruition in those final few minutes where Northwestern climbed back into it.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. At some point, you take enough shots, some of them are going to get through it, as good as Soriano was playing. It just kind of looked, though, when Maryland went up 6-2 in that third quarter, that a 4-goal lead with the way your goalkeeper's been playing. If you control possession, you get 1 or 2 more goals. Once you saw the save percentage numbers, if Maryland needed really 9 goals to win that game, but if they had scored earlier, they probably would have played a slightly different style and try to just hold Northwestern instead of being as aggressive offensively. So
playing with fire, man. Though if you're that low against in a championship game.
Absolutely, yeah. However, that is the style that they were going to beat Northwestern, but they were never going to beat Northwestern in a 17-16 game. They can't play that game offensively, and so it was the style I'm sure that Kathy Reese hoped would happen. She knew Soriano would have to have a good game, and they were just so close, but they couldn't get it done, and that's the story of it.
Yeah. Let's move off women's lacrosse and head over to the men's side. They did not play this week. A big break there for the Terps. They'll head into Big Ten tournament action this week. Big contest. I think that this team is pretty well situated to win the Big Ten tournament. Their journey starts on Thursday against 3-seeded Penn State. Penn State's given them some trouble in the past. Maryland was able to beat them this year 13-8 in a pretty decisive win. But in the past, the Terps have struggled against the Nittany Lions. So it'll be really interesting to watch kind of what goes down. They've beaten them the past 2 times. I know they won last year in a really close affair, but I'm fascinated to watch kind of how the journey starts here for Maryland.
No, absolutely. I think we talked about it last week, kind of the 3 keys to their success. Maryland has a very good chance to win this tournament. I would guess they're the favorites. Here's the thing. The biggest thing that would have scared a Maryland fan or anyone going into this game is that it's being played in Ann Arbor. It's being played in Michigan. And Michigan lacrosse has had Maryland's number the past couple seasons. Rutgers beat Michigan in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Michigan got knocked out. So,
Maryland takes care of business against Penn State. They'll then play the winner of Ohio State against Rutgers. The only team they lost to there was Rutgers, which was a very low scoring game in the rain. They lost that game 8-6, a game I'm sure they would love to avenge. So Maryland's in a good spot here based on the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks. Time off, I think, will definitely benefit them. Gave some guys a couple days to rest, then get back. And they've known they've been playing Penn State for a good amount of time now, so able to scout and get ready for the Big Ten championship. And this, I think this would be very good momentum for the Terps heading into the NCAA tournament. It's been a long time since a team from Maryland has won even just a Big Ten tournament championship across all sports. So it would be a good look overall, I'd say. And I think they're poised to get it done. But the biggest thing standing in the way will most likely be Ohio State if they beat Rutgers.
Definitely. It'll be a fascinating week there for Maryland. Let's move off of them and head into baseball. Mike, biggest series of the weekend, and it was another disheartening dropping for the Terps. They won to start the weekend, but then 2 straight losses. Talk to me about what happened against the Cornhuskers.
Yeah, it started off pretty positive. They won their first Friday game in who knows how long, and it didn't take a spectacular Kyle McCoy start where he pitches nearly the entire game. He really didn't have his best outing, but team came through for him. They were scoring runs early, and it looked pretty promising for the rest of the weekend, only needing to win one of the next 2 games. The Terps couldn't even do that. I think the biggest takeaway from the weekend is that it's going to take a lot for this team to have a full, complete 3-game set. Saturday, there wasn't really a competitive game. And then Sunday, if we're talking about competitive, it was not even competitive at all. The biggest takeaway from Saturday's game was that the Terps walked too many batters. They walked 8 batters in the game. That's what Coach Soap was preaching post-game. Cannot be giving up that many freebies. They also went 0 for 14 with runners on base. You're not going to win a game when you got runners on like that, and you just cannot even advance them, bring them home. Sunday wasn't even close. Coach Swope talked about the freebies. Andrew Johnson walks his first 3 batters, then gives up a grand slam in his 4th. The game kind of seemed inevitable there that the Terps are going to lose. They were in an early 6-0 hole, went down to even 11-0 before they scored a run. And even when they did have a 5-run inning, Terps gave up 5 runs next frame to Nebraska. So it wasn't even close. Coach Swope post-game, clearly very frustrated, very short responses. Was not too happy with a lot of stuff I had to ask him about. Looking forward to the rest of the season. They got series against Penn State. Penn State, that's the team that swept them in the final series last year, that kicked them out of postseason play, ended any chance of that. They also got series against Rutgers and Minnesota. Rutgers right now, they're tied for the last spot in the Big Ten tournament. That could be a pivotal series, but 2 other
Team is not making the Big Ten tournament.
I mean, 2 other teams tied for that final spot. Nebraska and Northwestern, 2 teams that you lost series to in brutal fashion. Also play against Minnesota. They're kind of vying for that final spot, but not really. Maryland's only 1 game behind them. Currently standing, Maryland is 3 games behind that 12 spot. So you would have to win all 3 series going forward. But like I said, I mean, it takes a lot for that team to have a weekend series. They haven't won a weekend series in their past 10 sets, dating back to last season's loss to Penn State in the final weekend. So the team is really struggling right now.
Brother, they're getting run ruled in almost every series. This isn't this is not good.
I mean, once they went down early, I was like, great, I'll catch a lot of the Lakers game.
Yeah. I mean,
which also wasn't a very good game to watch. It was a good game to watch, but not for you, maybe.
No,
yeah.
It was
The
terrible.
only chance they have is Minnesota's 1-11 at home. So maybe they'll beat Goldie Gopher down in Minneapolis. I think that Matt Swope has done a pretty porous job this season, both with roster construction and handling his pitching staff. I think that the changes he's made, I understand that nothing is working, but none of them have worked. And ultimately that falls on him as a coach. I think that there needs to be some significant moves this offseason in terms of reshaping the roster and also potentially the coaching staff. The type of season like this, I'm not saying Swope is gone. I don't think that that's even realistic, but there needs to be some significant changes in coaching philosophy, I guess is what I should say. I think finding a consistent lineup is a good place to start. I think bringing in more talented arms, trying to just less rely on maybe stuff and more just kind of on proven numbers. I don't think that this season has been Swope's finest job in the slightest. I think he's, this team isn't very talented, is not as talented nearly as I thought. The staff has really just killed them, but it's also just been, I think, a pretty porous managing job.
I mean, it really, like, I hate to say it, but it really just comes down to the pitching staff. I mean, you start the game in an 11-0 hole. Like, that's hard for the offense to have the mentality of, oh, we're the cardiac Terps, we're going to come back. Like, they've had so many comebacks like that in the past, but when you immediately go down like that, give a grand slam against the fourth batter, like, the mentality of the team is shattered. I don't know how exactly I feel about Andrew Johnson starting that rubber match. He had a productive start against Oregon a couple weeks ago when he had that surprising start, and it worked out for the Terps. They won that game. But he did not have a good appearance last week against Indiana where he blew the game in the 8th inning. I mean, it's hard to say it's on the coaching staff. There's not a lot of options they're working for, but like you said, that comes down to philosophy. Who are they targeting in the portal? Coaches talked a lot about the stuff that guys have. Like Andrew Johnson, he has the best stuff on the roster. Joey McManus, he has the best stuff on the roster. But they haven't turned that stuff into results. And that's where the issue lies. None of their transfer portal additions from the past year hit. They only have 2 players right now with an ERA under 5. Kyle McCoy, no surprise, and then Evan Smith, who's pitched in 1 game this season in the first week and has been injured since. So it's really been a struggle on all cylinders other than Kyle McCoy from that group.
Real struggles from the baseball team continues to happen. Mike's prediction of them being second in the Big Ten continues to look like the worst under the shell, I guess, prediction of the year.
I stand by that, though. I mean, they have that offensive talent.
That prediction was so bad, Mike. It's not even funny.
We'll move off of them and head over to softball. They're also at the end of their season. I mean, guys, I feel like we touch on them, but it's really just kind of the same old. Got smoked by Penn State. They have not won a Big Ten series in a while here, and they're going to end it with Nebraska, who's a very good team, swept by the Nittany Lions. So not looking so hot on the diamond for either team.
It's so weird. 2 years ago, both of these teams were looking solid. I mean, 2023, Mark Montgomery had softball at 500 in conference. I know, Sam, you covered that team. They've obviously taken 2 big steps back in the past 2 years after his unexplained stepping away from the team. And then baseball. What?
Wish we had more on that.
I don't know if we'll ever get more on that. Unfortunately, Sam never did enough digging to figure that out. But
Yeah, I guess I wasn't up to the task.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's not the coach here. Lauren Karn is, and they have not looked great. They haven't looked even good. Same with baseball, though. Both teams have kind of taken 2 steps back from that point. Obviously, they both lost coaches, so it just makes it much harder. But I think that's pretty much all we got on sports. It was a down week. That's definitely for sure, but it's because men's lacrosse didn't play. And they're usually the consistent team. And women's lacrosse did get 2 wins, which will definitely help them in the NCAA tournament. But that's pretty much all we got. Mike, you have a game of the week or something else?
We can do game of the week really quick, and then I have a really good hypothetical of the week. So game of the week, we're going to go men's lax against Penn State. Obviously, that's probably the biggest game that's being played. Like you guys said, I can't imagine Maryland losing this game. They're the favorites to win the conference tournament, so I'm going to take the Terps.
I'll take the Terps 13-10.
I'm going to take them in a much closer game, 11-10.
I didn't give a score.
Give us a score, Michael.
I'll go 12-8.
Nice.
All right.
And then
hypothetical of the week.
Yeah, hypothetical of the week. It's been blowing up on my timeline all weekend. Carried into today. We're recording it on Monday. It was on ESPN. Would you guys take 100 men versus 1 silverback gorilla?
How about 100 Terps?
100 Terps.
Silverback gorilla.
Okay.
I'm 100% in.
Probably can't go through all 100 Terps, but how about we each pick 3 Terps, past or present, that we would take in this fight?
All right. I would like to take Irene Knox with my first pick. Sharpshooter. Goodbye, gorilla. I got Irene.
I think we don't even need to go down the list. Just Irene Knox, I think, would be on all of our drafts. I'll take Julian Reese and let's do Jalen Duncan. Big boy.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, tackle.
This is a tough one. I'm gonna have to go. I'm thinking big men right here. Someone who's really sturdy, can handle a gorilla. I like your Jalen Duncan pick. This is a tough one. I'm gonna go. Let's say Diamond Stone.
All right, I don't hate that pick. You said we can pick any time, right? They don't have to still be at the team. They don't have to graduate here.
Brennan's about to pick someone wild.
I would like to take Matty Troy. I feel like he'd be a good person.
No, he is so skinny. He's getting abused. It's a horrible pick.
I don't know. I at the Snake on Instagram, he posts some pretty nice workout videos. I think he would be good.
Fine. I already took my two, so.
Oh, I thought we were doing three. We're doing three. I'll take one more.
I want Irene Knox too. I'm duplicating.
Oh God, no! Whoa! I will take with my last pick. I will take. Oh wow, this is brutal. I'll take Logan Wisnowski.
I'm gonna take someone who I know can pack a punch. He gave one to one of his teammates. I'm gonna go Steve Blake.
Oh my God, that's good. That's good stuff.
Good stuff from that game. Good stuff from all the sports this week. Brendan, take us away with Terrific Terp.
I think I'll take Kevin Willard actually in that draft.
He's gonna run away from the gorilla.
He'll confuse the gorilla. Okay, let's do Terrific Terp. For this week's,
know what I'm doing.
He has no idea what he's doing. For this week's Terrific Terp, let's take it back to 1930 in College Park, Maryland. The school definitely looked a bit different back then, but that did not stop them from having incredible student athletes. Julius J. Radice played baseball, basketball, and football at the University of Maryland. He made a big impact on the baseball team as a hitter, something pretty similar to this year's team. He also played first and second base. He was also a strong defender on the football team, so much so that he made the All-Maryland team according to the 1930 University of Maryland yearbook. On the basketball side of things, he was known to be an elite passer. This is back when games were much lower scoring. He helped lead the team to a 37-7 win over Kentucky, where he had 10 points in that contest, outscoring the entire Wildcats squad. Kentucky had 1 point at halftime and only made one field goal that entire game. Their other points all came from the free throw line. He was voted as the second best senior athlete in 1930, losing to William Evans. However, Evans is not in the University of Maryland Hall of Fame, and Radice is in the Athletic Hall of Fame. According to the same old Maryland yearbook, he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts and then went on to med school at GW. He got a medical degree in orthopedic surgery and was the team physician until he died in 1966. The Three Sports star is this week's Terrific Terp.
And another great Terrific Terp from Brendan to round out this week's episode. Thank you all for listening. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram. I take back Twitter. You can find us on X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you guys can find your podcasts. Thank you all for listening.
Guess what? You got Under the Shell Podcast. Nobody does it better.